So I noticed that I have a highlight here on the end of my nose. Most of you will too, because that is the area that sticks out from our face, and naturally the light would hit there. So I erased a little bit, and then I'm blending it in with my blending tool to give it a softer look. I noticed that I also have a highlight area on my cheek, so I can erase a little bit there. And when I'm erasing, I'm using my eraser gently, going in little circular motions again. This is all about doing a little bit at a time. You can always add a little more value back into it or erase a little bit more. Now that looks a little bit harsh, so I'm going to blend the edges of that highlight. Another thing that you're going to want to look for is the shadow areas around your face. So I noticed that I have some shadows around my eye, on the top of my hairline, near my forehead, and on the side of my face, and underneath my chin here. When you're adding shadows, you can do that by just doing a little bit of shading. Like we've practiced before, you can press hard at the edge of an object and then let go of your pressure to get lighter. When you add the highlights and the shadows, things will start to appear more realistic and look more like you. So I'm going to go ahead and add all the highlights and shadows to my face. The next thing I need to add shading to is my hair. Now my hair happens to be very close to the value of my face, but for some of you, your hair could be lighter or darker. So I'm going to want to shade very lightly with the graphite stick, or I could use my pencil, and I'm going to try to do it in the direction that the hair is going in. And I don't necessarily have to fill everything in, but I'm going to do it in lines so it looks like hair. Now, if your hair sticks up, then you're going to want to draw your lines going in that direction. If you have curly hair, then you're going to want to draw curls to show the texture of your hair. If your hair is wavy, then you can use wavy lines. That's kind of like what I'm going to use. If your hair is straight, then straight lines. But remember that you want to show the texture of the hair. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill in this area with some lightly drawn lines. I'm also keeping in mind the areas that are darker and lighter when I'm doing this. I see that I have a highlight up here near the top. So I'm going to press very lightly there. But down here, my hair is a little bit darker in the photo. Now that I've drawn some lines in my hair, I can go over it with my blending tool to soften it a little bit. We don't want any harsh lines again in this area, but we can leave some of the texture because we want it to look like hair. Or you can also use the eraser to erase any of the areas that got a little bit too dark, or if you want to go back and add a highlight. It's best to do this with the edge or the corner of an eraser to get a sharp look so it looks like a piece of hair. And I'm doing this in the direction that my hair is in. Instead of going horizontally with this, I'm going up and down and kind of in a slightly wavy line because my hair is a little bit wavy. The last material that we can add to this is black colored pencil. So when I look at my picture, I know that there are areas that are darker than I can get with my pencil. So in the shadows, I'm gonna go over those areas a little bit with black colored pencil and blend them into the regular pencil and the graphite. And this is just gonna make those shadows pop out a little bit more, and it's also going to make the highlights stand out even more because we'll have more contrast. So I can see along the edge of my face here that I need to add a little bit more value. Anything that you think needs to be outlined a little bit to make it pop or stand out, you can do that with the black colored pencil. So like I'm outlining the edge of my hair shape here just to make it stand out a little more and separate it from my forehead. And I'm going to add a little more shadow here along my face. I'm gonna keep doing that until I feel like it matches the photo as much as it can. Once you've gone over all the important details with a black colored pencil and given it a light outline and added any more shading that you need to make the shadows pop out, and you feel like your portrait is as close to the photo as it can be, then you can go ahead and cut it out around the shape. We're going to glue this to our painted paper background. The black and white photo and shading will contrast the colorful background and make your portrait really stand out. Once your picture is cut out, then you can decide which end of your painted paper you want to glue your picture on. I think I'm going to glue mine on the pink end, but you pick whatever works best with your painted paper. We're going to use white liquid glue for this. I'm going to put glue all along the edges of my portrait. I'm not putting a ton of glue, but just a line around the edge. And then just a little squiggle in the middle. Then I'm going to carefully flip it over, and we're going to glue this on the edge of our painted paper so that the edges of the papers match up. When you're pressing down, be careful that you don't get any glue on your photo side or your drawing side. We don't want to get any smudges and ruin our hard work. Once you have glued down your picture, then you can go ahead and recycle the other half of your portrait picture. The last step is using a white gel pen to add some highlights in our eyes. The gel pens you might need to test a little bit on a piece of scratch paper. If it's not working, just shake it a little bit and try to move the ball of the pen around. It's a ball point pen, meaning that there's a little metal ball at the end that moves the ink around so that you can draw with it. So I'm going to put a little dot here on the reflections of my eye, and I'm trying to match what they look like in my picture. I have two of them on my eye I can see here. You may have colored over yours when you were coloring in your iris. So just make sure that you have at least one dot for a reflection, and it will make your eye appear more realistic. I hope you had fun making your value half portrait and learning how to match the values in a photo by using value shading. I can't wait to see how yours turns out.